Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut are some of our favorite classic novels. And today I will inform you why classic novels such as these are oftentimes challenged and banned. For those of you that weren't aware, hundreds of books each year are removed from shelves. You will learn exactly why these books are removed. And for those of you that already knew there were large amounts of books removed from shelves, I will provide insight for why they are removed. Now, I'm not an expert in literature. I've never attended any professional classes or seminars, but I've always been passionate about the variety of genres and stories literature has to offer. And in preparation for this speech, I've read many articles and all of the books mentioned, as well as watched many videos and lectures regarding book banning. Some of the most common reasons for challenging and banning books are for sexually explicit content, violence, and offensive language. According to Butler University, last accessed on July 22nd, 2019, over 1,500 books were challenged for sexually explicit content between the years 2000 and 2009, which means roughly 150 books each year were challenged just for sexual content. I remember in high school, for our assigned reading, we had to have a permission slip signed by our parents just to read The Great Gatsby, simply because it contained sexual references. A few more reasons books are challenged for sexual content are because of their descriptive nudity and sexual scenes. This includes books such as The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Although these books give no indication they contain strong sexual content, some readers found they were too sexually explicit for all ages. Now that we've covered why sexually explicit content will keep some books off of the shelves, we'll move on to our next concerning topic regarding book banning: violence. Violence in modern days is more common and less offensive, especially with video games and films. But literature is no different. One example of a piece of literature commonly challenged and banned is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, even being burned in some states and countries, according to the American Library Association in 2013, last accessed July 22nd, 2019. A common reason violent books like these are challenged is because of the graphic descriptions of violent situations involving murder, suicide, torture, and sensitive rape scenes. It's not just the graphic descriptions, however, that send red flags up. It's also the violent messages several books share. While some books are seemingly harmless, other books, like Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, have a clear violent presence, and many people believe it will send the wrong message. We've covered sexually explicit content and violence as it pertains to book banning. Now we'll move on to our next concerning topic: offensive language. Profanity is a common trigger for offense, but it's often used by authors in their literature to enhance their argument or conversation. Although it may be a large part of somebody's vocabulary, it does not always translate as harmless. Another common trait we see in offensive language in literature are racial slurs. Race is a common topic of discussion for classic books like Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, simply because of the time period it was wrote in or the time period it was set in. But verbiage used in that time will not always be accepting in modern days. Of Mice and Men remains one of the most commonly challenged and banned books, and also burned books, according to the American Library Association in 2013, last accessed July 22nd, 2019. Common topics in all of literature are politics and religion, oftentimes featured in the same piece, which poses a problem. There are hundreds of books challenged each year just for this reason, such as The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck and Animal Farm by George Orwell. Today I informed you about some of the most common reasons classic novels are banned, such as sexually explicit content, violence, and offensive language. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut continue to be some of the most challenged and banned classic books of all time. In the words of the late, great Isaac Asimov, any book worth banning is a book worth reading.